Greetings, fellow cultivators. Welcome to Audio Nova. Remember to like and subscribe to support the journey. Today, we're diving into the story of what's the point of cultivating immortality if you don't have money. With the end of the Tao heart test, Deng Bingding reported the results. Although Zhang Yu's valuation result was unknown, Deng Bingding believed it was mainly due to the simplicity of this Tao heart test. The inflated results of other students were also due to the same reason. If it were in reality, and they were truly coerced and tempted, they would not be able to get such a high price. But after all, it's just a test to eliminate some weaklings and focus on students with potential. Achieving this step is enough. In Deng Bingding's reported test results, besides Zhang Yu, Ye Lingxiao, and Yongjing, who performed excellently, Bai Zhenzhen, who had a rather special performance, was also highlighted. Some students with insufficient basic data, and lagging behind, in the Tao heart test, were also marked, awaiting the decision of the higher-ups on whether to eliminate them. Soon after, the gods present saw the reply from above. A thumbs up. This meant that the work was approved by the higher-ups, and the gods' slightly tense mood relaxed at once. Then they received the specific reply from above. For example, rewards for Zhang Yu, Ye Lingxiao, Yongjing, and Bai Zhenzhen, to encourage them. Deng Bingding was slightly stunned to see this. She had expected the rewards for the first three, but she hadn't expected the reward for Bai Zhenzhen. After all, in her opinion, Bai Zhenzhen's performance, although special, was far inferior to the other three. Could it be that someone above appreciates Bai Zhenzhen's performance? Deng Bingding continued to read the reply. Are there a few other students to be eliminated? When Zhang Yu opened his eyes again, he found himself back in the registration office once more. The middle-aged woman who had registered him was sitting behind the office chair, looking at him. Deng Bingding said, "You should still remember the content of the Tao heart test, right? After all, the 8 divine departments now emphasize keeping records of work to facilitate post-event review. All the data from the foundation establishment examination, and Tao heart test, and even the memories of the students' experiences in the illusion, are preserved." Zhang Yu nodded, finally confirming the guess in his heart. So everything I just experienced was some kind of illusion? Deng Bingding looked at Zhang Yu with admiration and said, "You performed very well in this Tao heart test. You are wholeheartedly devoted to the immortal path, with lofty goals, and unwavering determination. Both I and the leaders above appreciate you very much. So, to encourage you, the higher-ups have specially approved a sum of bonus." Hearing the word bonus, Zhang Yu's eyes lit up instantly. Money was what he lacked most on his path to immortality. But when he saw Deng Bingding flick out a red envelope, talisman, with her fingertip, Zhang Yu's face suddenly changed. Is the bonus a high-interest loan? Are these bastards trying to scam students from the start? Zhang Yu couldn't help but curse inwardly. Deng Bingding spoke again. "This is a 300,000 interest-free loan. After you receive it, you only need to repay 5,000 each month, for a total of 60 months. Seeing the flying red envelope talisman, Zhang Yu immediately felt that his previous thoughts were shallow. He quickly and respectfully accepted the red envelope. "Thank you, examiner. May I ask how to address you?" Deng Bingding said indifferently, "You can call me Deng Traveling God. I am the examiner for your session of the Foundation Establishment Examination. Your performance this time has caught the eye of the higher-ups. Cultivate well in the coming year, and strive to pass the Foundation Establishment Qualification Certificate next time. Going to the second level in the future will surely bring great prospects." Obviously, Deng Bingding, judging from Zhang Yu's data on mana, physique, and martial arts, did not think Zhang Yu could pass this session's Foundation Establishment Qualification Certificate. Zhang Yu understood this in his heart. In fact, this was indeed the case for most high school students. He couldn't possibly argue about it. At the moment, Zhang Yu respectfully said, "Thank you for your guidance, Deng Traveling God." Deng Bingding nodded. "You may leave." In the next moment, Zhang Yu felt a large hole appear under his feet, and his whole body fell into it. When Zhang Yu regained his senses again, he had returned to the toilet stall at the train station. He carefully opened the toilet door, came outside the toilet, and looked at the crowds of people passing by. Zhang Yu thought to himself, "This time it's really over, right?" A moment later, after waiting for Bai Zhenzhen to come out of the women's restroom, and exchanging a few words, they finally confirmed that the Tao heart test was truly over. Bai Zhenzhen had also received a bonus, which was a 150,000 interest-free loan. Bai Zhenzhen breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I didn't expect the test to have a bonus. This examination reform is great." This bonus greatly relieved Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenzhen, whose savings were running out. However, they didn't dare to stay in the high-priced Immortal City for long, and the two had already boarded the train for their return journey. While Bai Zhenzhen went to the toilet, Zhang Yu squeezed the bead on his chest. In the next moment, Fuqi's voice, as if waking from a dream, came into his mind. Is it over? Before coming to Immortal City to participate in the Foundation Establishment examination, Zhang Yu was somewhat hesitant about whether to bring Fuqi to the Foundation Establishment examination. On the one hand, although Fuqi seemed completely harmless to him now, Zhang Yu deeply remembered her identity as an evil god and the process of making a wish in the beginning, and he didn't dare to let her out alone, giving her a chance to escape control. But on the other hand, participating in a competition watched by the gods, he had to worry about Fuqi being discovered, and even the possibility of the ritual power in his body being discovered. However, just as Zhang Yu was hesitating, Fuqi suggested that Zhang Yu could bring her, and said, "If I speak to you, or investigate the outside world, then my existence may indeed be discovered. But if I suppress my consciousness and thoughts, and actively give up all investigation of the outside world, it is equivalent to a dead object, and it is more than enough to hide from a Foundation Establishment examination. We are now in the same boat. If something happens to you, I'm done for too. I definitely won't lie to you. The so-called righteous gods have talismans, and we evil gods have rituals. Compared to the ability to make money, we may not be as good as the righteous gods, but if we compare hiding traces and avoiding detection, how can the righteous gods compare to us evil gods? If it weren't for this, wouldn't the evil gods who sneaked into Kongshu have been cut long ago?" The reason why Fuqi was willing to say this to Zhang Yu. On the one hand, it was because she knew that Zhang Yu had not truly trusted her, until now. Persuading him to leave her outside would only increase Zhang Yu's suspicion of her, and destroy the little trust that had been built up during this period. And on the other hand, Fuqi now regarded Zhang Yu as a blue chip stock with extremely strong potential. Based on my years of investment experience, trying to deal with Zhang Yu now, and causing infighting, is like buying a blue chip stock and selling it before it has risen much, which is a major investment taboo. For this kind of blue chip stock, you must be patient and hold it tightly in your hand. Just like with this Zhang Yu, now is the opportunity to help him further gain his trust, and make the cake bigger together. Only when he truly grows up, will it be time to consider harvesting. The latest novels are first published on Liu Jiu. Besides, I have already completed the ritual with him, and I have every advantage in this regard. Why should I fight with him early? There will be plenty of time in the future. On the train at this moment, the awakened Fuqi said, "Although I was not discovered this time, there was a period of time when I felt the sea of consciousness shaking, and there seemed to be divine power surging outside. The Foundation Establishment examination you participated in is of a very high standard." Fuqi sighed. "If you really pass the Foundation Establishment qualification certificate, you will definitely attract more attention from the righteous gods. To ensure safety, and to hide me and the ritual even deeper, you still have to help me hunt down my colleagues as soon as possible. When I recover some of my power, my hiding ability will be stronger, and your potential can be further stimulated. The boss behind Mo Tianyi must be related to my colleagues. You can take him down first." This was Fuqi's other purpose, to use this opportunity to once again urge Zhang Yu to hunt down evil gods. Although Zhang Yu did not answer, he was quite tempted in his heart. Of course, it was not only because of Fuqi's persuasion, but also because of the gap he felt in those second-year students in Immortal City this time. The strongest of the second-year students in this Foundation Establishment examination are already close to the limit of ki refining. In another half a year, more students in this exam will probably cultivate their Dao heart, mana, and physique to the limit of ki refining. Zhang Yu knew that if he wanted to deal with this kind of high school Joshin student, he had to push his various stats to the peak of ki refining. Stimulating potential, upgrading the feather book. How could I not want to do this kind of thing? However, that poor boss is now likely to be a second-year student at White Dragon High School, but with the backing of the evil god, and having won competition rankings, his strength is probably already at the level of a third-year student. If he wants to contact him, Xiong Yu must at least ensure that his strength reaches the level of a third-year student. Strength. After all, I still need stronger strength. And if I want stronger strength, besides upgrading the feather book, I can only rely on money. Do I have to spend time making money again? Xiong Yu hesitated a little. He had already spent too much cultivation time in order to work and earn money. Although he had a 300,000 interest-free loan in his hand, it still wouldn't last long compared to the various cultivation expenses. Just then, Bai Zhenjin, who had returned from the toilet, looked at Xiong Yu and asked curiously, "Yuzi, what are you doing staring at your phone?" Xiong Yu said, "Ajin, the more I work, the more I understand one thing. Working can't make you rich. Especially if you want to pass the exam, it's too slow to rely on the money we earn from working." Bai Zhenjun said, "That's nonsense. If working could make you rich, where would we be working?" Xiong Yu continued, "If you want to make big money, you still have to rely on loans. Loans are the fastest way for young people in Kongshu to make money. If Xiong Yu had wanted to accumulate strength without relying on loans before, then after seeing the level of the immortal city masters on this trip, he felt more pressure. Especially the urgency of hunting evil gods. All of this required him to improve his strength more in the next 6 months, and he needed to further accelerate his cultivation. And the first method he thought of, which was also the most common method in Kongshu, was loans. Bai Zhenjin looked at Xiong Yu seriously and said, "Yuzi, you've spoken my mind. After seeing so many immortal city masters in the examination hall this time, I realized that we weren't trying hard enough before. If we continue to work and cultivate 24 hours a day, and continue to lie flat like this, how can we compete with the immortal city masters? Let's do it, Yuzi. Our credit rating must have risen a lot in the past few months, and the limit should have increased a lot too." Bai Zhenjin also took out her phone, opened the platform, and took a deep breath. "Let's completely loan out our immortal potential in one go." In the next moment, as the two of them clicked on their phones, the numbers on their bank accounts suddenly changed. At this moment, Xiong Yu felt as if he saw rivers of money crossing over and pouring into his body, frantically pushing his immortal potential. Xiong Yu was quite wary of borrowing money when he first came to Kongshu. This was partly due to the influence of the original owner's experiences and memories, and partly due to Xiong Yu's own wariness of borrowing from his previous life. But after more than half a year of living in Kongshu and seeing so many people borrowing money, his mindset has gradually changed. Taking medicine to refine the body, borrowing money to earn money. Xiong Yu sighed to himself, "I am now becoming more and more assimilated by Kongshu, more and more like a local Kongshu resident." But Xiong Yu didn't think there was anything wrong with it. People have to adapt to their environment after all. If you want to climb up in Kongshu, you must adapt to Kongshu's rules. Refining the body requires taking medicine. Cultivating immortality requires borrowing money. In the blink of an eye, Xiong Yu had borrowed money from various platforms, one after another. Now, Xiong Yu repays his loans on time every month, his bank statements have surged, and his grades have greatly improved. The amount he can borrow has increased by another 1 million, piecemeal. So, in the blink of an eye, Xiong Yu had 1 million in his account at this moment. Adding the original 15,000 per month, the interest to be paid each month is 40,000. By the time I'm in the third year of high school, I'll have to pay off all the 1.7 million principal from various platforms. Plus the 5,000 yuan interest-free loan, that's a total of 45,000 yuan, to be repaid each month. Looking at the cold balance of more than 1.3 million in his account at this moment, Xiong Yu slowly let out a breath. He felt both a heavy pressure on his shoulders and a surge of energy, eager to go back and make a big splash. Bai Zhenjin, who had borrowed less than Xiong Yu before, was now in full swing, and borrowed another 900,000 in one go. At this moment, she also had an energetic look on her face, waiting to go back and integrate the 900,000 into her flesh and blood to promote her cultivation. More than 10 hours later, the two transferred all the way, and finally returned to Songyang City, starting another round of charge on the road to immortality. And time passed quickly with the two people's charge. Inside the apartment, Xiong Yu took off the weighted clothing he usually wore for training, and took out the newly bought training skin. This training skin also uses some kind of immortal technology. It looks like a thin layer of human skin, and it feels almost the same as real human skin to the touch. Seeing this lifelike appearance, Xiong Yu said, "Could this really be made from the skin of some expert?" based on Zhang Yu's understanding of Kung Fu, this kind of thing was not impossible. Fuji scoffed at this and said, with the little money you spent, you still want to buy real skin. This looks like synthetic skin. It can't achieve 100% compatibility. At most, it's 99% compatible. As Zhang Yu put it on, he felt that the layer of training skin naturally adhered to his body, as if it had become a new layer of his skin. At the same time, this new skin also gave his body a strong sense of restraint, forcing him to constantly exert strength to resist it, as if he was constantly exercising the muscles all over his body. However, he couldn't feel any incompatibility. He only felt that it was much better than his original weighted clothing. A moment later, Zhang Yu opened his phone, opened the management software for the training skin, and chose to turn it off. The sense of restraint all over his body suddenly disappeared, making Zhang Yu not even feel the existence of this layer of training skin. Breathability, sweating, and breathing are not affected. As expected of a 100,000 yuan training skin. This way, I can have an extra layer of exercise at all times. I can also turn it off at any time, when I don't need it. Protection zone. Inside the incubator. The little panda Anew was hugging her big tail, watching Bai Zhenjun breathing. She thought to herself that Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenjun had at least doubled their time in the past few days. I wonder if their tutoring time for Wenwu has also doubled. Although Anan felt a pang of heartache for the company's loss of assets when she saw the other party rubbing against the Red Pagoda's spiritual energy. But she tried her best to control herself from showing it. After all, for her who hadn't even finished elementary school knowledge, high school students were already the pride of heaven. And when facing Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenjun, competition players from key high schools, especially after learning about their grades, Anan felt a sense of inferiority and shame every time she stood in front of them. Because she deeply understood that compared to Bai Zhenjun and Zhang Yu, she was purely illiterate. Especially Bai Zhenjun's always cold appearance made Anan feel that the other party should look down on her quite a bit. However, when Bai Zhenjun left this time, Anan quickly waved her short limbs and jumped in front of Bai Zhenjun. This is for you. Bai Zhenjun looked at the monster beast meat with a bow tied on it and asked curiously, for me. Anan said, thank you for tutoring Zhang Wenwu. Looking at Anan's slightly nervous gaze, Bai Zhenjun accepted the monster beast meat and said, your monster beast meat here often has leftovers that can't be sold, right? Why don't you sell it to me privately for a cheaper price? I happen to be planning to buy more monster beast meat for dietary supplements recently. Anan said anxiously, you want me to betray the company's interests again? Bai Zhenjun smiled and rubbed Anan's ears and said, you don't want Zhang Wenwu's grades to decline, do you? Sell it to me cheaper. If you don't feel at ease with the money you earn, you can subsidize Zhang Wenwu. Anan sighed in her heart, feeling that she had gradually changed from the best employee to a company spy, and the 2,000 yuan salary was undeserved. Inside the apartment. As Zhang Yu lit up the newly bought searchlights, the entire room gradually changed from its original brightness to a white-hot color. In the end, it was so bright that almost nothing could be seen, and even Zhang Yu's figure was completely swallowed up. Zhang Yu felt the frantic passive operation of the Great Sun Qi, felt the Great Sun magic power in his body rolling violently like magma, and began to cultivate the Crimson Marrow Hunyuan Qi in such an environment. Late June. Inside the apartment. Inside the cardboard box placed in the corner of the room were all kinds of potions that Lemulin had brought to Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenjun. Lemulin casually threw her tattered clothes into the trash can next to her. Because today's sweating was particularly heavy, her skin had become a little dry. While changing her clothes, she said, your strength has increased a lot recently. Zhang Yu smiled and said, I have to thank you for the medicine. Every time I use it, I feel especially energetic. Lemulin glanced slightly, watching Zhang Yu staring at the potion on the ground, and reminded, oral administration of bone and muscle enhancer has the best effect. Zhang Yu still couldn't bring himself to do such a thing. He suddenly stood up, seized the time to absorb the potion, and began to cultivate the Scarlet Marrow Yuan Qi. A hint of surprise flashed in Lemulin's eyes. As she walked out of the room, she couldn't help but say, next time you want me to apply any medicine, you can tell me in advance. After returning to Xian High School, Lemulin drank several glasses of water, because she had just sweated so much. After finishing another glass, Lemulin said to Lian Tianji beside her, go and pour me another glass of water. Next time before I leave school, remember to prepare a bucket of water for me. Lian Tianji nodded slightly, thinking to himself, what kind of combat training is this that causes so much sweating? The newest novels are first published on 69shu.com. Songyang High School. Inside the office for renting spiritual roots. Administrator Wei Xin looked at Zhang Yu in surprise and said, you said you want to rent it for how long? Zhang Yu said grandly, if it's a monthly package, what's the discounted price? Although he had bought Zhenzhen's true spiritual route to use in rotation, even if the true spiritual route had some residual effects, it was ultimately being shared by two people. Now that he had a large sum of money in hand, Zhang Yu thought about renting a muscle-enhancing spiritual route. When Bai Zhenzhen was using the spiritual route, he would use the muscle-enhancing spiritual route, so that both of them could use the spiritual route to cultivate 24 hours a day. Administrator Wei Xin nodded repeatedly, her eyes shining, and said, of course, there can be a discount. For a muscle-enhancing spiritual route, a monthly package can be discounted to 2 million per month. In an instant, Zhang Yu fell into silence, feeling that he had just been a little abrupt. Forget it, let's do it by the hour. I feel like that's more flexible. End of June. Beilong High School. Yu Xingyan and Zhang Yu created a series of after-images and were now engaged in a fierce battle together. Sensing the fierce force between the opponents' moves, Yu Xingyan asked, have you learned the Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm? Zhang Yu brought up the sound of dragon roars and elephant cries with the palm, and shouted, because of you, I spent 200,000 to buy this set of techniques. Shouldn't you subsidize me a bit? Yu Xingyan also returned a palm, laughing loudly, blame yourself for having too strong martial arts talent, it costs too much money. Yu Xingyan, who had checked Zhang Yu's information, had actually guessed this point long ago, that is, when he used pure physical martial arts, such as the Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm, it was likely to be learned by Zhang Yu. But that was precisely his purpose. Because when the other party used the same martial arts as him, it would be more convenient for him to use his third eye to absorb and copy Zhang Yu's physical strength and skills. But he didn't want to point out that Zhang Yu was doing this, otherwise Zhang Yu would definitely ask him for more money. Fortunately, he learned this set of techniques himself during my training, and then could only buy it. He saved another sum of money. However, thinking that Zhang Yu, in his impoverished state, still spent 200,000, a hint of embarrassment flashed in Yu Xingyan's heart. Sorry Zhang Yu, but the immortal path competition is either you spending more money, or me spending more money. If you want to go further on the path of immortality, you can't give an inch. I must pass the foundation establishment exam next year. For this goal, I will save money by any means. I want money. As for Zhang Yu's participation in the foundation establishment exam, Yu Xingyan didn't take it to heart at all. After all, in Yu Xingyan's view, the gap between the two would only widen next year due to financial constraints, and he was not his competitor in the exam at all. On the other side, Zhang Yu, while using the level 1 Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm, glanced at the level 3 Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm on the feather book, feeling the new benefits of this martial art to his skills. Because his usual cultivation time was already occupied by the Scarlet Marrow Yuan Qi, he could only practice other martial arts during combat training. So Zhang Yu simply bought the right to use the Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm, and practice this martial art while conducting combat training with Yu Xingyan. He thought to himself, sorry Yu Xingyan for me, whether I use the level 1 Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm, or my highest level Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm, the training effect is about the same. But I can't reveal my terrifying talent. I can only practice with you using the level 1 Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm, sacrificing your training quality a bit. After all, in order to pass the Foundation Establishment Qualification Certificate this year, I have to use any means, and seize every opportunity to become stronger. Time passed by constantly in Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenzhen's crazy spending and crazy cultivation. In the blink of an eye, it was already the beginning of July. Only 1.5 months were left before the first round of the Foundation Establishment exam in mid-August. And on this day, inside Songyang High School, Lan Ling led a group of second-year students towards the first-year campus. He thought to himself, Zhang Pianpian has been gone for half a month. Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenzhen's contracts don't seem to have been transferred to anyone else by Zhang Pianpian. Just leaving people on the first floor like this. Let's test them out and see if Zhang Pianpian has made any arrangements for these two poor ghosts. Lan Ling planned to take the opportunity of the combat class to teach the two a lesson, just like he did a few months ago. And the more he thought about the two's once unruly behavior, daring to challenge him, a wealthy senior, as poor ghosts and juniors, the more uncomfortable Lan Ling felt. Of course, his actions this time were not only based on his own ideas. Lan Ling thought of Zhu, Cheshin, and Le Jingchen from Xian, who had contacted him this morning. Lan Ling thought to himself, after all, letting two poor ghosts who can't get into the top 10 keep occupying places in the competition is causing a lot of people to have opinions. Inside the training grounds, the students of the Senior 1 demonstration class were engaged in one-on-one combat training. Martial arts teacher Lei Jin shouted loudly at the crowd, "Dao techniques rely on money, martial arts rely on life. If you want to spend less money, you have to risk your life more. Every extra bit of hard work you put in now will save you money on tutoring classes. In 2 months, you will officially become senior 2 students. Think about whether your current level is worthy of senior 2. While urging everyone to practice diligently, Lei Jun looked at the purple-skinned, beast-like, and black-skinned students in the class and sighed in his heart. This year's high school entrance interview will probably weigh heavily on whether or not students are willing to undergo new body refinement surgeries after enrollment. In another 5 or 10 years, it will probably become a fixed item for admission, just like sterilization surgery. Lei Jun could already imagine the situation at that time. What? You want to cultivate immortality looking like that? Go get the modification surgery done first. But Lei Jun was also somewhat relieved. Fortunately, I'm not a physical education teacher. It doesn't have much to do with me. With the advancement of new body refinement technology, Lei Jun knew that the physical education teachers were holding meetings almost every day, constantly researching new teaching plans. So, it's still better to be a martial arts teacher. The teaching tasks are the easiest. But it's only easier for martial arts teachers in the first year of high school. Lei Jun knew that the martial arts teachers in the 3rd year of high school faced a lot of pressure. After all, facing those senior 3 students who had already stepped into the late stage of ki refining and were at the most score-obsessed age, what was needed was real combat experience. Teachers like me, who are only proficient in basic combat skills like sneak attacks, insults, and provocations, can only fight in arenas. But wanting to be a senior 3 teacher just because you can fight? Lei Jun knew that was a pipe dream. How can you be qualified if you don't spend a few years researching insurance contracts, injury assessments, medical compensation, organ valuation, and so on? You won't even understand how students are beaten to death or injured in class. But with high risk comes high reward, and Lei Jun sometimes envied the income of senior 3 martial arts teachers as insurance and medical intermediaries. Just then, a burst of footsteps came from outside. Lei Jun frowned when he saw the rows of senior 2 students walking in, especially when he saw Lan Ling leading the way. At the same time, the senior 1 students who had been practicing stopped one after another and bowed to the approaching senior 2 students to greet them. "Hello, seniors." Looking at the respectful actions of the senior 1 students, Lan Ling nodded slightly. "Carry on with your work." Then he walked towards Lei Jun, smiled slightly, and said, "Teacher, today's arrangement is for combat exchanges between Senior 2 and Senior 1. You received the message, right?" Lei Jun looked at it, and found that this matter had indeed just been arranged, and his heart became even more displeased. Because he remembered the scene of Lan Ling guiding by Zhenjin a few months ago. But he knew that he was helpless about this. Lei Jun sighed in his heart. It's finally here. Lei Jun knew that the student union of Songyang High School, and even the 16 wealthy families of Songyang City, would not stand idly by and watch Zhang Yu and by Zhenjin, to poor people, repeatedly snatching competition places. Because for the wealthy people in Songyang City, every competition place was an important achievement for interviews with the top 10 universities. How could they give it to these poor people, who were destined not to be admitted to the top 10? Even with the level of ki refining peak, Lei Jun didn't dare to defy this general trend at this moment, and could only reluctantly say, "Don't hurt anyone." Lan Ling said, "Don't worry, teacher. I've told all the students that they must be careful when conducting combat training with their junior brothers and sisters, and must never hurt them." By the way, Lan Ling glanced around, not seeing Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenjin, and said casually, "Are all the students here? If they're not all here, call them all over." In a corner of the training room, Zhao Tianxing, who was purple all over and looked like a humanoid eggplant, secretly took out his mobile phone and began to send messages to Zhang Yu, and by Zhenjin, the gatekeeper wants to make trouble for you, don't come over. But just as he finished sending the message, a palm gently patted Zhao Tianxing's body, scaring him so much that he almost threw his phone away. Junior, let Senior give you some pointers. Zhao Tianxing turned his head and saw a senior who was much wider than him looking at him with a smile. Lan Ling said lightly, Jake, remember, don't hurt your junior. Don't worry. Zhuke dragged Zhao Tianxing out and said gently, I guarantee that I won't hurt even a single hair on your head. In the school's small woods, Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenjin were hiding here, quietly cultivating. As Zhang Yu circulated the scarlet marrow primordial key, accompanied by the intense movement of muscles, organs, and bones, he was now steaming all over, as if he had become a radiator, constantly emitting heat to the surroundings. Since returning from Xiongdu, Zhang Yu had been charging forward on the path of immortality by spending money, and his strength had naturally improved by leaps and bounds. To this day, his mana had reached 69.4, and his physical strength had reached level 6.81, which was increasingly approaching the average level of a white dragon person at the beginning of Senior 3. Only the progress of the Dao Heart had been slower during this period, only pushing it to level 5. That guy Yu Xing'an said that after this year's college entrance examination, he would introduce me to channels for cultivating the Dao Heart in the spirit realm. Why hasn't it happened yet? In addition to the progress of Dao Heart, mana, and physical body, another gain for Zhang Yu was that in the combat training with Yu Xing'an, he pushed the Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm to level 10. And since the Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm reached level 10, Zhang Yu felt that day by day, the structure of his muscles and bones had undergone subtle changes. It was his body that was undergoing a transformation with each day's eating and exercise. Zhang Yu understood that this was the level 10 effect of the Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm, also known as dragon tendons and elephant bones, which gave the physical body a more immortal and powerful carrying capacity, capable of bearing and transmitting higher power bursts. It is indeed a $200,000 martial art. No wonder Yu Xing'an wants to practice this martial art. If I had this level 10 Dragon Elephant Mountain Shattering Palm during the physical competition, maybe I could have supported 13,000 kilograms. No, maybe I could have supported a 14,000 kilogram sky pillar. Just then, Bai Zhenjin, who was beside him, suddenly said, Yuzi, did you see the message Lao Zhao sent us? Zhang Yu heard this and opened his phone. After looking at Lao Zhao's message, he looked at Bai Zhenjin and asked, Zhen, what do you say? Bai Zhenjin laughed, if we don't dare to fight even students like Lan Ling from Songyang High School, how can we compete with the Xiongdu masters? As she spoke, Bai Zhenjin had already rushed towards the training room with a burst of electric light. Yuzi, I'll take a step first. If you arrive late, you might not have a chance to fight. Seeing Bai Zhenjin disappearing in the blink of an eye, Zhang Yu thought to himself, Zhen's speed is getting faster and faster. He knew that it wasn't just him who was improving rapidly during this period. Bai Zhenjin was also improving rapidly. Originally, Zhen's martial arts talent was already very strong with the blessing of the true spirit root. Zhang Yu still remembered Bai Zhenjin's performance in learning basic high school martial arts, comprehending the heavenly martial heart refining art, and comprehending the external moves of the Wuji cloud hand. She succeeded in almost a very short time. And now, while the true spirit root is promoting my cultivation speed, I am also stimulating the evolution of the true spirit root. Zhang Yu had too many techniques cultivated to level 10, far exceeding the level of a high school student. In the process of constantly adapting to Zhang Yu, the true spirit root seemed to absorb more traces of the techniques from the operation of the physical body and mana, and then brought them back to Bai Zhenjin's body. This allowed Bai Zhenjin to cultivate the techniques that Zhang Yu had practiced, as if it were a natural process, and she could continue to improve by leaps and bounds. Especially pure external techniques like the back dragon overturning mountain hand and the dragon elephant mountain shattering palm, Bai Zhenjin could master them with ease. However, Zhang Yu knew that Bai Zhenjin couldn't afford the right to use the techniques he had, because she wanted to save money. She was secretly practicing them, and didn't intend to use them openly, only as a way to improve her strength. Inside the training ground, Zhao Tianxing, who looked like an eggplant, had just climbed up when Zhu Ke kicked him in the butt again, and the whole person fell to the ground, like a dog eating shit, causing the senior two students to burst into laughter. Zhao Tianxing struggled to climb up again, but no matter how he dodged and counterattacked, Zhu Ke could always appear behind his butt like a ghost and kick him. The power used by the other party was not great, only to the extent of kicking Zhao Tianxing to the ground. This represented a complete crushing in terms of strength, speed, and control. So Zhao Tianxing was not injured. He was even less discouraged by the huge gap between him and the other party. After all, facing a senior 1 grade higher, Zhao Tianxing knew that any senior 1 freshman could only obediently bow their heads in this situation. After all, there is a gap of 1 year, and it is completely normal not to be the opponent of the seniors. At this moment, most of his thoughts were no longer on the battle, but on thinking about his ugly state at the moment. Fortunately, I had super metabolism surgery, and my whole body is purple. Everyone shouldn't be able to see my blushing face, right? Purple is my best protective color now. Climbing up again, Zhao Tianxing quickly tied his loose pants, fearing that they would fall off if he was beaten down later. He knew that at this moment, he must have become a laughingstock in the eyes of everyone present. And the only thing Zhao Tianxing could think of doing was to try to pretend not to care, and when everyone laughed enough, they would naturally gradually stop laughing in the future. This was his experience after being a clown again and again. As for resistance, we senior 1 students are definitely not the opponents of the senior to seniors. And the leader is the student union. Thinking of the wealthy families behind Lan Ling and others, Zhao Tianxing secretly told himself not to cause trouble for his parents. Just then, a voice came in. What's the point of this kind of combat training? Zhu Ke stopped and looked at Qianshen, who was speaking, tilting his head and saying, "This junior, do you have any objections to the senior's guidance?" Zhao Tianxing, who was on the side, climbed up and looked at Qianshen with some emotion. Lao Xian. Qianshen frowned and said, "In the college entrance examinations combat exam, the yellow turban warriors will simulate the candidate's qualities for combat. If you want to improve your score, you should also fight opponents with similar data. Isn't what you are doing now wasting everyone's cultivation, time, and dragging down everyone's scores? And Zhao Tianxing and most of the people present have scores that are not high in the first place. Isn't it even more delayed by what you are doing?" Listening to Nova, Zhao Tianxing twitched his lips upon hearing this, thinking to himself, "Qianzi, you really didn't need to say that last sentence. Now I look even more like a clown." Lan Ling's gaze turned cold as he looked at Qianshen, who dared to contradict a senior, and said indifferently, "Zhu Ke, then you can also give this junior some pointers." Just as Zhu Ke was about to walk towards Qianshen, a flash of lightning streaked through the air. To everyone's surprise, Bai Zhenzhen had already appeared in front of Zhu Ke with a gust of wind. Zhao Tianxing frowned slightly, thinking, "Didn't I tell them not to come? Why are they here again?" He seemed to recall the scene from months ago, when Bai Zhenzhen was sent flying by Lan Ling. Although Bai Zhenzhen's strength had improved rapidly in the past few months, the second-year students were also cultivating and improving. In Zhao Tianxing's opinion, the gap of a year's cultivation was impossible to overcome. "You want to fight, huh?" Bai Zhenzhen snorted coldly, looking at Zhu Ke and saying, "I'll fight you." But then Lan Ling said, "Zhu Ke, you should rest for a while and recover your strength." Lan Ling said this because he had considered Bai Zhenzhen's performance in the physical competition and felt that Zhu Ke might not be her opponent. And of course, Lan Ling couldn't allow a first-year student, like Bai Zhenzhen, to teach a second-year senior a lesson in front of so many people. So, he made up a reason to send Zhu Ke away and walked up to meet Bai Zhenzhen's gaze. Lan Ling smiled slightly and said casually, "Junior, it's been a few months. Let me give you some pointers again." Bang. Without giving Lan Ling a chance to finish his sentence, Bai Zhenzhen's right leg seemed to disappear into the air for a moment, and a burst of air exploded on Lan Ling's abdomen. Just like the sparring match a few months ago, Bai Zhenzhen kicked Lan Ling in the body, but the result was completely different. Lan Ling's expression changed slightly, and his originally steady body retreated to steps. "Senior, it seems you underestimated me too much." As Bai Zhenzhen spoke, she disappeared in front of Lan Ling. Lei Jun's eyes lit up, thinking that it had been a long time since he had seen Bai Zhenzhen's full power, and she had become so much stronger. "Good sneak attack," Lei Jun praised sincerely. Remember, in actual combat, a sneak attack is a great art, the best choice for the weak to overcome the strong. The next moment, it seemed as if lightning was flashing back and forth in the air. Bai Zhenjian's blurry figure darted around, like a ghost. In the shocked gazes of many first and second-year students, Bai Zhenjian seemed to have turned into a storm, completely engulfing Lan Ling in front of her. Lightning accompanied by air currents exploded on Lan Ling's body, like cannonballs impacting his body, pushing him back step by step. Lan Ling protected his vital points with both hands, also looking at this scene in surprise, thinking to himself, this Bai Zhenjian actually has this kind of strength. In just a few months, she has reached the level of fighting me. Thinking of this, an extreme sense of jealousy welled up in Lan Ling's heart. How much money did he spend? How much hardship? How much time did it take him to get to this point? And this poor wretch actually spent less money and less time to get close to him. With a loud bang, the blood in Lan Ling's body suddenly surged, and the palm of his right hand began to swell with a violent throbbing, instantly doubling in size in a red glow. It was the 5th level push of the expert level cultivation technique, Heart Yuan Great Handprint. Not only did it involve the expansion and exertion of muscles, but it also gathered the power of blood flow throughout the body into this palm. With a light push of the palm, Bai Zhenjian felt as if the atmosphere was pressing down like a wall, and the oppressive pressure seemed to suffocate her. I can't fight him head-on in terms of strength. Bai Zhenjian retreated quickly, avoiding the palm. In an instant, the two people on the field seemed to be fighting in the air. Lan Ling couldn't catch up with Bai Zhenjian, and Bai Zhenjian didn't fight Lan Ling head-on. Just then, Lan Ling shouted softly, "Junior, you don't even dare to take one of my palms?" Classic provocative opening, Legion analyzed. Remember, provoking your opponent, disrupting their mentality, and even making them give up their advantages and attack their weaknesses, these are all great arts of provocation, and they will be tested in the theoretical exam. Many first-year students nodded repeatedly upon hearing this. Lan Ling frowned slightly, and couldn't help but glance at Lei Jun. Just then, Bai Zhenjian, who was moving at high speed, sneered and said, "Lan Ling, with your level, you can't even take down a first-year student like me. I think you've already stepped into vocational college with half a foot. You've wasted so many years of studying." Lan Ling gritted his teeth fiercely upon hearing this, and the blood in his body seemed to boil a little more. "Good insult," Lei Jun commented from the side. Listen to how Bai Zhenjian's short sentences are not only full of aggression, but also tailored to the opponent, immediately causing the opponent to become impetuous. Sneak attacks, provocations, and insults are all basic knowledge of actual combat and are the focus of the theoretical exam. Watch carefully and remember well. Lan Ling became even more annoyed when he heard this. Wasn't this implying that he was going to vocational college? This was simply a great shame to Lan Ling. He had studied hard since he was a child, and had never been told such dirty words about going to vocational college. Roar! Lan Ling looked at Bai Zhenjian, who was approaching him again, and roared, and surging mana mixed with air currents spewed out of his mouth. Layers of visible ripples swept towards all directions. It was another expert-level technique, Lion's Roar, 5th level push. The surging sound waves swept towards all directions, attacking all the space around Lan Ling. Just as Lan Ling felt that this attack would definitely hit Bai Zhenjian. He saw Bai Zhenjian as if she had expected it, her whole body flashing with lightning. At the moment he launched Lion's Roar, she had already changed direction in advance and flashed away into the distance. In Bai Zhenjian's eyes, Lan Ling's expression of wanting to unleash a big move, when he was exasperated, was too obvious. And the power of Lion's Roar's sound waves decreased greatly with distance, and Bai Zhenjian casually resisted it and attacked Lan Ling again. At this moment, Lan Ling, after withdrawing the Heart Yuan Great Handprint and unleashing Lion's Roar, in Bai Zhenjian's eyes, his stamina and mana were no longer at their peak, and every move and stance was full of flaws. With the sound of explosions, Bai Zhenjian and Lan Ling had already engaged in a fierce fight. The palms and fingers of both sides collided, exploding with gusts of wind and thunder. With a whoosh, Bai Zhenjian retracted her attack, and retreated, looking at Lan Ling with a faint smile. "Still want to fight?" Lan Ling snorted coldly, suppressed the lion's roar that was about to erupt in his throat, and said, "Junior, are you scared?" Just then, Lei Jun said, "Beautiful." The most new small set in 6-9 book bar first hair. This insult, hitting the face in person, strikes directly at the heart. You must remember it well. Lan Ling frowned slightly, and the next moment he seemed to react and looked at his chest, and saw that the clothes on his chest were torn, revealing a slightly bloody wound. That wound was made by Jinjin, when she fought him just now, using body-piercing sword ki combined with invisible sword technique, and supplemented by true spirit root. The power wasn't much, it just broke Lan Ling's skin a little, and left a little blood. But the wound formed a few words, which were vocational college student. Furious. Rose from Lan Ling's heart. On the other side, Lei Jin was still saying, "You see? Is the effect good? I told you a long time ago that the college entrance examination is to fight the yellow turban warriors, so you should go all out, and just hit them hard. I don't require you to use any real combat techniques in the exam. But real battles in reality are different from exams. You must not always think about how to injure or kill the other party, because even if you win, you will have to pay money. The more you win, the more you lose. The real masters of actual combat are those who hurt the heart, but not the person, destroying the spirit rather than the body. Like the art of insult, you usually think it's useless during exams, but it's very useful in real combat. Real insult masters cannot hurt their opponents a single hair, but after a battle, they can make people's hearts collapse, or even die of depression." Lan Ling glared at Lei Jun, and shouted angrily, "Teacher, are you saying too much?" Lei Jun smiled and said, "It's rare for a second-year student to give pointers to a first-year student. I certainly can't waste this opportunity, I have to analyze it carefully for everyone." Lan Ling took a few deep breaths, glared at Bai Jinjin, and said, "Petty tricks, let's continue." "Still want to fight?" Bai Jinjin shook her head and said lightly, "Forget it, I don't want to carve words on you." Lan Ling's face flushed with anger upon hearing this, and he said angrily, "Bai Jinjin, it's just that you took advantage of my carelessness to cut my skin a little. How can your real strength be my opponent?" He's getting anxious. Zhao Tianxing, watching this scene, also shook his head secretly. Once he gets anxious, he'll be a complete clown. Based on his past experience of being made a clown, time and time again, Zhao Tianxing deeply understood that once you fall into a disadvantage, you must pretend to be nonchalant. On the contrary, if you are anxious, then in everyone's eyes, you have lost even if you haven't lost, and you are ugly even if you aren't ugly. Well, now that the clown position has shifted to Lan Ling, what I just did doesn't count for much. On the other side. Forget it, senior. Bai Zhenchen shook her head and said lightly, "Look, you're already triggered." Just when Lan Ling got anxious. Outside the gate of the training ground, Zhichechen leaned against the wall, sighing helplessly. "Look at you, you're getting anxious again." Then Zhichechen smiled slightly, and said to Zhang Yu in front of him, "Junior, your eyes make me very uncomfortable." Zhang Yu, who had come to the outside of the training ground one step behind Bai Zhenjin, was staring at Zhichechen at this moment, and said, "Senior, do you want to give me some pointers?" Zhu Shechen, with a chilling aura, walked towards Zhang Yu step by step, looked down at him condescendingly, and said slowly, "Compared to you, what I'm more interested in is actually your master, Zhang Pianpian. Junior, don't think too highly of yourself. Even if I want to do something, it's just like encountering a barking dog, kicking it to shut it up, and then seeing if it's a stray dog, or a domestic dog. Outside the gate of the training ground. I'm giving you another warning. The competition rankings aren't something you and Bai Zhenjin can hold on to forever based on your status. You two shouldn't participate in the upcoming first-year Dao Heart competition." Having said that, Zhichechen had already walked into the training ground, seemingly not planning to give Zhang Yu a chance to retort. "Or perhaps if you want to resist, then come in and tell me. If you have the confidence and the courage." With Zhichetchen's arrival, the entire training ground felt like it had entered a cold winter. It wasn't just the cold air Zhichechen brought that objectively lowered the temperature. More so, the accumulated prestige of this student council vice president weighed down on everyone present, whether first-year or second-year students, making them feel like they couldn't even breathe loudly. So the first-year students bowed in unison, "Hello, senior." The second-year students on the other side also bowed, and greeted, "Hello, President." Even Lan Ling, who had been somewhat exasperated just now, calmed down from the chill emanating from Zhichechen upon his arrival, and stopped arguing with Bai Zhenjin. He exerted a slight force in his chest muscles, then reached out and smoothed over the broken skin and muscle, completely erasing the words junior college student. Zhu Shechen glanced at everyone, finally looking at Bai Zhenjin, and said indifferently, "Bai Zhenjin, Senior Lan Ling kindly offered to guide you in combat skills, but you played tricks to humiliate him." This is truly against the spirit of our Xiong High School. Zhao Tianxing, watching this scene, felt a familiar sensation welling up. Here it comes again. It was like this a few months ago. Once Chechen arrives, no one can stop him. If it weren't for Zhang Pianpian suppressing him in the end, Yuzi and Asian would probably have been bullied to death back then. A flash of inspiration seemed to strike Zhao Tianxing's mind. It's the same now. With a few movements and words, Chechen completely changed the atmosphere of the entire scene. I can feel that, following Chechen's actions, the clown position here is about to shift again. Zhao Tianxing looked at Bai Zhenzhen with nervousness and worry, then looked at himself, feeling that the clown position would shift to them to no matter how he looked at it. Just then, Zhang Yu also walked into the training ground, looking at Chechen and smiling. Since when has the spirit of our Xiong High School been that we can't humiliate other students? Students with high scores can insult students with low scores, and good grades are everything. Isn't that the spirit of our Xiong High School? The many students present, whether first year or second year, nodded secretly upon hearing this, very much agreeing with the logic Zhang Yu spoke. Zhu Chechen also looked at Zhang Yu with a scrutinizing gaze, thinking, dare to come in. Then let me see what kind of confidence you have. Zhang Yu then continued with Lan Ling's level. How many competition rankings did he get in his first year? Has he ever sparred with students from the top 3 high schools? Bai Zhenzhen won 4th place in the martial arts competition and 5th place in the sports competition. Why can't she humiliate Lan Ling? Bai Zhenzhen also said indifferently from the side, when Zhang Yu and I went to White Dragon High School to exchange martial arts with Yu Xing'an and Song Hailong, the top students in their grade. Students like this who haven't won any competition rankings had to kneel outside the door and listen. Qian Shen couldn't help but say upon hearing this, that's right, we high school students ultimately value grades above all else. With Bai Zhenzhen's competition results, her level of evolution is far above Lan Ling's. What's wrong with humiliating Lan Ling a little? Is it a big deal for students with good grades to humiliate students with poor grades? Isn't this the casual daily life of our Xiong High School? The students present either had experience insulting others or had experience being insulted, or both. At this moment, they all nodded secretly after hearing this. Even among the second-year students, many people's gazes towards Lan Ling had subtle changes. Listening to them saying one sentence after another, Lan Ling's blood and energy surged even more. His breathing became heavier and heavier, his face became redder and redder, and the veins on his forehead seemed about to burst out, but he couldn't say a word. Only because every word of the other party was based on score supremacy and grade supremacy, making Lan Ling want to attack, but also feel that he couldn't attack now, and in the end, he could only stare at Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenzhen fiercely. At this moment, Lan Ling even had a feeling that he was actually being bullied by students with better grades. Zhao Tianxing's eyes sparkled as he watched this scene just now. After Chechen said a few words, I thought the clown position was about to shift over. Who knew that after Anew came in, he instantly reversed the situation again, firmly pinning the clown position on Lan Ling. But just as everyone's emotions were following Zhang Yu and Bai Zhenzhen's narration, Zhu Chechen took a step forward, and the chill on his body erupted suddenly, bringing with it gusts of bone-chilling wind that swept across the entire training ground. Zhu Chechen said coldly, Lan Ling is a student council cadre, representing the student council. He kindly came to guide the junior students, but Bai Zhenzhen took the opportunity to humiliate him. This is disrupting the school's teaching order, and has nothing to do with high or low scores. Along with the cold wind erupting from Chechen's body, there was also a kind of pressure from the soul. A strong emotion of fear surged from the hearts of many people, making them feel inexplicably nervous. Their hearts beat faster, and they dared not have any rebuttal to Chechen's words. Zhang Yu, not far in front of Chechen, was the first to bear the brunt. Along with the oncoming cold wind, a burst of fear was actually aroused in his heart. Fuji reminded, be careful, it's the influence of the mental cultivation method. Zhang Yu immediately activated the heavenly martial heart refining art, and a martial intent to fight against the heavens, and the earth instantly erupted from his mind, completely suppressing the fear in his heart just now. Some information about Chechen also surfaced in Zhang Yu's mind. Before Zhang Pianpian left, she explained many things to Zhang Yu, and naturally gave Zhang Yu a lot of useful information. Among them, Zhu Chechen and Lan Ling, as the two who were extremely hostile to Zhang Yu, and by Zhenjin, Zhang Pianpian, naturally, also told about the situation of these two people. The freezing air on Chechechen's body comes from an expert level cultivation method called frost heaven freezing key field, and the mental cultivation method is the frost prison art that matches the frost heaven freezing key field. These two cultivation methods are a set with each other, which can complement and benefit each other. Zhang Yu also knew that, unlike the cultivation methods bought by most people, the two matching cultivation methods of frost heaven freezing key field and frost prison art were not bought by Chechen, but were cultivation methods passed down from his family for many years. The Zhu family's first pot of gold was to sell the exclusive agency rights of these two cultivation methods to the Wangxing Education Group. However, although the copyright of the cultivation methods was sold in Songyang City, almost only the Zhu family has been able to truly cultivate these two sets of cultivation methods successfully. The reason for this is related to the cultivation method of these two cultivation methods. The cultivation of the frost heaven freezing key field requires extracting the yin cold evil energy and death resentment from corpses, and then using the mental cultivation method frost prison art to suppress it. After cultivation, not only can every move bring about freezing air all over the sky, but also can explode the resentment remaining in countless corpses, forming a kind of fear attack. And corpses naturally cost money in Songyang City. Not only does buying corpses cost money, but disposing of corpses costs even more money. Whether it is wall burial, box burial, cremation, or water burial, there are different charging standards. If the family members plan to sell the corpses directly, they also need to go to professional institutions for processing and identification, and pay a handling fee and corpse transaction tax. And thinking of throwing it directly into a ditch, or small river, is even more subject to a considerable fine. The Zhu family behind Chechen has always been doing the business of corpse disposal in Songyang City, possessing a large number of fresh corpse reserves, able to make money while practicing. At this moment, Fuji reminded it's very troublesome to fight this Zhu Chechen. The frost heaven freezing key field has a very large attack range. As long as you approach him, you will be attacked by the freezing air, your muscles will be frozen stiff, and the operation of mana will be slowed down. The longer you fight him, the worse your state will be. There is no way to hide from this freezing air all over the sky. Coupled with his frost prison art, he can also weaken the opponent's mental state. Once you can't solve him in one go, you will be weakened by him all the time, and finally the freezing air accumulated in your body will explode, causing serious damage. And as the first place in the second year, his various data must still be above yours now, it is difficult to explode him in a short time. So to deal with this guy, we must use the method we discussed before. Zhang Yu certainly knew what Fuji meant this kind of practical combat in public, unlike the exam of fighting yellow urban warriors, just bury your head, and use brute force, but must use various practical combat skills, attacking the mind is the most important. On the other side, Chechen, who was running the frost prison art, looked at Zhang Yu, and his eyes emitted a strong fear pressure, and said coldly by Zhenjin, is disrupting the teaching order, are you going to come too? Zhang Yu, are you also going to disrupt the teaching order? Faced with Chechen's pressure, Zhang Yu activated the heavenly martial heart refining art, and said without fear, Senior, you can suppress other people's mouths with your mental cultivation method, but you can't suppress the scores of me, and by Zhenjin. I'm standing here today, not recruiting, not blocking, not dodging, and I'll take 10 moves from you. If Senior can knock me down within 10 moves, I will naturally willingly accept the guidance of the student council. If not, then please Senior abide by the spirit of Songyang High School, so that excellent students like Bai Zhenjin can fully humiliate poor students like Lan Ling. Ridiculous. Lan Ling snorted angrily, and said, boy, you shouldn't be trying to cheat medical expenses, right? Zhu Chechen held down Lan Ling, who was so angry that his chest was about to explode. Zhu Chechen looked at Zhang Yu, the coldness in his eyes grew stronger. Very good, what you said is really good. Don't worry, it won't take 10 moves, and you don't need to go to the medical room. Within 3 moves, I will press you on the ground. While speaking, Chechen's figure brought with it freezing air all over the sky, and he slapped towards Zhang Yu from the air,